mentioned the repeatable, predictable model that you came up with. Is there more that you could share? Is there a skeleton to this?
In terms of making it more repeatable?
Yeah, like.
Yeah, so definitely one thing that SMB companies or mid-market companies are more like to buy kind of point solutions that solve a specific pain point that they have right now. So with Datadog, we're probably more of a platform. We can probably do a lot of things well. So when we're going up on a message and optimizing like a sales process, it's real focused on one specific pain point. And basically you want to target the right customers who have the same problem. And getting data, especially in the US, in terms of leads and stuff, is not an issue at the likes of like outreach.io and tools like that you can gather loads of data. But the problem is sometimes is that you need to just be really targeted on targeting the same type of person with the same problem, and that's what really becomes repeatable then. So I think if you have a broad message aimed at lots of people, I don't think it's a case of trying to shoot a wall and stick kind of thing. You need to be really laser focused and say the VP of sales in a tech company that has between 100 and 500 people that has this specific pain point. That's who we're going after, and you find that that's what becomes repeatable then.
I think the thing you've got to look for a repeatable enterprise sales model is a coverage model, because you cannot use inside sales techniques to really do enterprise selling at scale. You unfortunately need people in territory. And therefore the biggest challenge is a coverage one. It's not so much the deals you're in, but it is when you're small, because if they're the wrong deals, it's fatal. But as you try to scale, the problem is the deals you're not in. And that's consistently, whether you're selling on-premise software or SaaS, that's a function, it's a coverage challenge to scale.
Yeah, and it's a great point, and also an enormous challenge to decide when to scale and when to roll out, because it's so expensive. The fastest way to kill a company in enterprise sales is to invest too early in rolling out that coverage model before you really understand your customers. I'm sure we probably have time for maybe one or two more questions. Gentleman in the App Select t-shirt back there.
I'm just wondering, how much focus have you had on building a renewals machine on customer success?
We place a lot of focus on customer success at Datadog, and probably one of the primary reasons we do that is if you actually run the numbers on customer success, it actually has a major impact on the business over 3 to 5 years. So, for example, one thing that I've done is what would a 5% reduction in churn mean for Datadog in the next 3 years? The numbers are staggering. Or what would one more referral per month mean to Datadog over the next 5 years? Again, the numbers are staggering. So we place a lot of emphasis on the customer success function. So whether that be retention, renewals, and retention, upsells, and referrals. And we get a lot of revenue through existing customers at the moment. So we place a lot of emphasis on it. The reason is when you actually do run the numbers, it actually makes sense. So I'm not sure what.
Well, I think the first point of that, the customer success, and we have a big focus on it, is I remember it was actually Sean Ellis on that program I was with Brian, and he said to get the customer to the wow moment. Oh yeah, that's when they realise what the application is about, they just get it, and that's a huge emphasis for us. Like we I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but we start the application with contacts in of Jane Doe and Joe Blogs, and we show everything that it can do, and they can easily delete those if they want to. We hit, like, the funnel is just something we obsess over about, the emails and the timing of the emails and the metrics around them and what they're clicking on and what sparks their interest. One of the bad things about our product is that we're not vertical, we're a little bit horizontal, a little bit like Excel, and that's what makes our metrics a little bit tough, because we're spread across lots of industries, but we still obsess about when they get into the application, what are they doing, and how do they get to the point where they actually understand what our application is about as fast as we can. And they're the people, if they get it at the start, they become advocates, and they become, your reseller, and they become the people that stick around longer when they actually get it faster.
Probably worth mentioning that from an investor point of view, what we want to see in a really high quality SaaS business is actually negative net churn In other words, upsell to your existing customers exceeds churn on a monthly basis. And, not just by 1 or 2%, but material negative net churn. I'm going to annoy Niamh now by taking one more question before I wrap. We're technically over time.
Could you talk a little bit, and maybe it comes under the marketing heading, maybe it's somewhere separately, but how does product management focus, do you have a focus on product management in the business?
We've made a focus on product, so we have a product team, so product manager, VP of engineering, dev team. So one thing that really helps is when you're clear on what success looks like to your customer when they use your product, that feeds everything. That feeds your marketing message, it feeds what you're doing during your sales process, and it also feeds what goes into product. So customer success part plays the customer success organization plays a big part there in feeding a lot of information back. But like our product people get on calls with customers quite a lot, similar to what you were mentioning earlier, lots of calls, getting feedback and getting it from the coal face rather than relying on some feature that some sales guy thinks he's going to sell to get a 50k deal across the line. That's not scalable, that's not sustainable. So it is a core part to what we do.
Peter, how do you guys do?
So we're continually, so we don't pretend to be experts at all. We're a very organic organisation. We try and have this flat structure where good ideas can come from anywhere, and we're continually mixing it up. We're continually experimenting with different ways to run the company and different ways to manage things. One of the latest systems we've put in place now, I suppose we're at a phase in our company where we're starting to reach a pain point around process. And we need to start putting kind of processes in rather than somebody just hacking on an idea because they had a conversation with the customer. So interesting process we've just recently put in place is that the product, we didn't even have team leaders over our products, and now we have team leaders over our products. The team leaders meet every month with the head of marketing and the head of support. And the idea is that between the three of them, they're going to agree at the next set of priorities for the customers are. And that's an opportunity as well just to kind of break down the barrier, the communication barriers. So the three of them, they get to vote. Adrian, head of support, representing the customer's interest. You've got DC, head of marketing, thinking about these are the features we really need to drive sales. I suppose as we run a sales function at the company, he'll be in on that meeting, those people will be in on that meeting as well. And between them, they'll all leave that meeting agreeing what the next set of features are or where we are overall.
So it's kind of a product management committee, if
That's
you like.
it, yeah.
Mike?
I guess within the company, I suppose I would feel my expertise, I suppose, is I'm a product person. So one thing we've done that has a huge benefit, and I spoke about funnel early on, we have a 21-day free trial. I think it's about day 9 or something like that. There's an automated email that comes directly from me. It's an email address that goes into our support inbox. But what it actually says, it says, okay, while I lead this company, I'm a product person and the user experience that you have is very important to me. And then the next line is that if you reply to this email, I will, it says, while it's an automated email, if you reply to this, I will reply to you. And it takes up probably, a half day of me per week replying to these emails. Now I've a little bits of stock replies and stuff like that come in there, but it's huge what I learn, and then it comes from the top about what feature set we need to have, and it's like, saying always listening to the customer. I don't really need to meet anybody to say, well, what features do we need? I don't need to meet support. I'm actually in the support interface every week for a half a day nearly doing this kind of stuff. Now, it's getting a little bit out of hand. The half day is kind of starting to feel a little bit, so I might, do something that changes a little bit for scaling, but I still want to be able to touch. The very first web summit was on in Trinity, and Craig Newmark, is it Craig Newmark?
Craig Newmark, yeah.
So he was actually waiting, he was in a panel and he was waiting to get up to the podium to speak, and he was tapping away on a little netbook. And then when he went up to speak, he was talking about customer support, and he said that his title in the company is not CEO or anything like that, it's still actually customer support. He's just listed as customer support. And he said, while I was waiting to get up there on the podium, I was actually answering customer support issues. So he stayed at the whole face of that, and I think it's one of the main things you have to do if you don't understand what your customers want, and stay constantly talking to them in some way. Like, so he was doing it one way, I do it another way, you guys do it another way. If you don't, you're gone.
And Fergus, finally, how does product management work, and how does it interact with sales and marketing? What's your experience?
First of all, it's always been a key facet of the companies we work in, Salesforce and Marketo. And again, it's trying to strike that balance between what are the sales needs, what are the market needs, and what are marketing needs or customer feedback. And it's just striking that balance versus equally, I would say, in the marketing automation space where you have more vision. So CRM is a well understood problem, okay? Whereas marketing automation is rapidly evolving in the whole area, say predictive analytics or predictive content, etc. The founder in that case, and I know this to be true of other marketing automation companies, has another voice, which is, well, we got to keep consistent to the vision as well of where. So I think there needs to be that balance. Where I have seen it go wrong, or potentially wrong, is actually if you pay too much weight to sales. You can then end up in the business of writing custom contracts. And I can tell you, if you're trying to do RevRec, which is a subject of several days, completely boring all on its own, on contracts like that in a SaaS space, this man on my right definitely won't talk to you. You know, so you can actually give too much balance in your organization, too much weight to the voice of sales, and I would caution against that.
Yeah, this feature that you're building, as
Yeah.
DJ said, to win a 50k
Good deal. Yeah, yeah.
Madness.
Nobody else
Madness.
uses it, yeah.
Okay, I think I'm 10 minutes over time, so I'm going to cut it there. And Eve promised to have you all out at 9:30, and I've failed miserably, but hopefully it was enjoyable and useful. Thanks very much.